With nearly a year of solo driving experience under his belt, 18-year-old Aaron Berman feels pretty relaxed behind the wheel.
I think I've driven in a lot of different areas, like the city with left hook turns, and out in the country and in suburbs, so I find myself pretty confident.
But when it comes to the rules of the road, there's one area that Aaron admits is a bit of a blind spot.
When I took my ELS test and P's test, there wasn't much on driving around trucks.
In fact, no matter what part of the country you learn to drive in, there's no requirement to practice driving around a heavy vehicle before attaining your Australian licence. And according to new research conducted by the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, the resulting knowledge gap is having a serious impact on driver safety.
Late last year, we conducted a survey of around 1,000 young L&P platers, so that 16 to 25-year-old cohort, to get a better understanding of how they felt and what they knew around how to drive safely when sharing the roads with trucks as opposed to cars. Around 90% of those young people actually felt a level of anxiety and nervousness when they were sharing the roads with trucks. And some of that probably comes down to the fact that the survey results also showed around 30% had never had practical experience. So they weren't taught the difference between sharing a road with a truck and a car. Unfortunately, on Australian roads last year, there was 187 lives lost involving an incident between a car and a truck. And what we're finding is around 70% of those serious incidents and fatalities are at the fault of the light vehicle driver. We know that we need to do more when it comes to really getting that education and skill set better for drivers across all demographics, but we really do want to focus on those young drivers first because we know they're vulnerable and we know that we can get in early and change their behaviour.
For experienced truckies like Peter Kelly, it's painfully evident that many motorists haven't been educated on the dangers of driving around heavy vehicles.
Probably on a daily basis, I come into interactions with people who don't know how to drive around trucks. The closest incident that I recall, I was driving on the downslope of the Westgate Bridge, which is quite steep, and it was in sort of peak hour traffic. I had vehicles on my left and vehicles on my right, and all of a sudden the vehicle on my right just changed into my lane, but he was actually going to hit me, and I could see that, and I couldn't stop, and I couldn't move to the left, and it was a real balancing act, and I was on the horn, and how that day I didn't hit this car, I have no idea, but fortunately in the end the driver saw me and moved out of the way, and I reckon it was a split second before I would have cleaned that car up. Hey mate, I'll get you whack that on.
Peter reckons all inexperienced drivers could use a little more perspective when driving around trucks, so he's invited Aaron along for a ride.
Hey Aaron, how you going?
Good. Well, it's a lot bigger than I thought it would be.
Yeah, they are big. They're a lot heavier than most people think they are too. Just before we take off, can you look in the mirrors and tell me if you can see anything behind us?
No, can't see anything.
Nothing at all?
No.
Cool. I'll just get you to jump out. I just want to show you something. Hey mate, I'll get you to jump out and have a look. So if you just come down this way. So from inside the cabin, you couldn't see anything in the mirrors.
Oh yeah.
But right behind us there's a car.
Oh wow, I had no idea. I didn't know that they couldn't see at all. I thought maybe there was a reverse camera that was on at all times. I didn't know there was like that was the blind spot where you can't see your car at all. It was a bit shocking because cars drive like that all the time.
Cool, let's go for a drive, Aaron.
All right, I'm ready. Yep.
So when you're out and about on the road, the main thing that drivers need to be aware of is that trucks need more distance to stop. So we're telling road users, give a truck 3 to 4 times more space than you would a car. So that includes if you're overtaking a truck, make sure when you're coming back in front of that truck, you can see the truck's headlights in your rearview mirror and that you've given them that 3 to 4 times more space than you would a car.
So how hard is it to turn?
Look, turning's not too bad. They just take up a lot of space. So that's why on the back of trucks you'll see do not overtake turning vehicles, because we often need 2 lanes. The problem is if we're turning left and we move right over to the right, people will come up on our left-hand side. And then if we stick too far to the left, people will come up on our right-hand side. So we try and find the sweet spot.
Another key factor that we're telling drivers is don't overtake a turning truck. So making sure that if you see a truck and it's about to go around a roundabout or turn a corner, that you're not trying to use that opportunity to weave in front of that truck or dash in front of it to get past it.
After this, I reckon there should be more education on driving around trucks, because there's a lot I didn't know, and I feel like everyone needs to know that.
Yeah, I guess for parents that are teaching their kids to drive, they should actually encourage the learner driver to drive around trucks. So they're driving around trucks while the parent is in the car with them, and hopefully getting some experience and some confidence about being around trucks, because the worst thing you can do is to shield your children while you're teaching them to drive, and then they have no experience around trucks, and then when they're out by themselves, they have to learn on the job, so to speak.